Mazda Motor has decided to stick with the development of internal combustion engine vehicles, which has left the company as an outlier in the auto sector.
February 2024. Mazda does something that shocks the entire automotive world. They don't just hint at nostalgia or tease a concept destined for the dustbin. They establish a full department, 36 engineers, real budget. One mission: bring the rotary engine back from the dead, not as a museum piece, but as actual production hardware. And here's the wildest part: they might actually succeed. In an era where everyone's racing toward electric vehicles and internal combustion feels like yesterday's news, Mazda just placed a massive bet on an engine design most people wrote off over a decade ago. So what exactly is going on here? The announcement that changed everything. On February 1, 2024, Mazda made it official with a press release that caught everyone off guard. They reinstated what they're calling the RI Development Group. This wasn't buried in some quarterly report or mentioned in passing during an investor call. This was a dedicated department with full status, resources, and a crystal-clear mandate: develop modern rotary engines that can actually survive in today's brutal automotive landscape. 36 engineers might not sound like a massive army, but in the automotive world, that's significant. Most manufacturers wouldn't bother staffing up an entire department for a niche engine type unless they had concrete plans beyond flashy concept cars and Prost stunts. Mazda essentially told the world they're betting real money and real talent on technology that nearly every other automaker considers a dead end. The RE Development Group isn't working in some secret bunker either. Mazda has been surprisingly transparent about their goals. They want rotary engines that meet modern emission standards, integrate seamlessly into hybrid powertrains, and here's the kicker: run on carbon-neutral fuels. That last part matters because it repositions the rotary not as a relic from a dirtier era, but as something that could theoretically fit into a low-carbon future. Whether that vision is realistic or just optimistic marketing remains to be seen. But the commitment is undeniable. Mazda isn't just dabbling here. They're going all in on an idea that most of the industry abandoned years ago. The question everyone's asking is simple: why? Why rotary engines disappeared? To understand why this comeback is so shocking, you need to know why rotary engines vanished in the first place. The Wankel rotary engine, named after German inventor Felix Wankel, was supposed to revolutionize everything back in the 1960s and 70s. It was compact, lightweight, had fewer moving parts than conventional piston engines, and could rev to astronomical numbers. The design was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of pistons going up and down, a triangular rotor spins inside an oval chamber, creating combustion cycles as it rotates. Mazda fell in love with it. They became the only major automaker to mass-produce rotary-powered cars, building their entire performance identity around it. The Cosmo Sport, the RX-7, eventually the RX-8. These weren't just cars, they were statements. But the rotary had problems, serious ones. Fuel economy was terrible compared to conventional engines. The design inherently burned more fuel because of how the combustion chamber was shaped and how the air-fuel mixture moved through it. When the oil crisis hit in the 1970s and fuel prices skyrocketed, thirsty engines became a massive liability. Suddenly, the rotary's compact size and high-revving character couldn't justify the costs at the pump. Emissions were even worse. Rotaries struggled to burn fuel cleanly. They spewed hydrocarbons and other pollutants that made regulators cringe. As environmental laws tightened globally through the 1980s and 90s, the rotary became harder and harder to justify. Mazda kept trying. They refined the design through multiple generations of the RX-7, then launched the RX-8 in 2003 with a redesigned Renesis engine that improved efficiency somewhat. But by 2012, even Mazda had to admit defeat. The RX-8 was discontinued. The rotary engine was shelved. The world moved on to turbocharged four-cylinders, efficient diesels, hybrids, and eventually full electric vehicles. For over a decade, the rotary was essentially dead. Enthusiasts mourned it. Engineers moved on. The automotive landscape changed completely. So when Mazda announced they were bringing it back, the reaction wasn't just surprise. It was disbelief. Why would anyone resurrect technology that failed so spectacularly? The quiet comeback, MX-30 range extender. Here's what most people missed. Mazda actually already brought the Rotary back. They just did it quietly. In 2023, they launched the MX-30e Skyactiv R-EV in Japan and Europe. It's a plug-in hybrid SUV with a tiny 830cc single-rotor engine under the hood. But here's the twist that changes everything. The Rotary doesn't drive the wheels. It's a range extender. The little Rotary sits there, spinning smoothly, generating electricity that charges the battery. That battery then powers the electric motor that actually moves the car. This is fundamentally different from what Rotaries did in the RX-7 or RX-8. Instead of screaming at 9,000 RPM and guzzling premium fuel, this Rotary runs at a steady, efficient speed. It's acting more like a portable generator than a traditional engine, and it turns out Rotaries are actually pretty good at that job. They're incredibly compact, smooth, and when you're not asking them to deliver wild horsepower, they can be reasonably efficient. The packaging advantage alone is significant. A Rotary range extender takes up far less space than a conventional inline-4 would, leaving more room for batteries and cargo. The MX-30 range extender wasn't a blockbuster sales hit. It's a niche product in a niche segment, but it proves something crucial. Mazda could build a modern Rotary that met strict emission standards and served a real practical purpose. It was a proof of concept, a way to test the waters, keep the engineering knowledge alive, and demonstrate that the fundamental technology could work in today's regulatory environment. More importantly, it laid the groundwork for what came next. Because while the MX-30 kept Rotary technology alive, it wasn't the car enthusiasts were waiting for. The iconic SP concept, a sports car, returns. October 2023, the Japan Mobility Show in Tokyo. Mazda pulls the cover off something that makes every car enthusiast's heart skip a beat. The iconic SP concept. And this time, it's not a sensible hybrid SUV for families. This is a two-seat sports car. Low-slung, aggressive, purposeful. The kind of car that exists purely to make driving exciting again. Under the hood, or rather, under that sculpted body, sits a dual-rotor Rotary engine paired with an electric motor in a plug-in hybrid setup. Mazda claims the iconic SP could deliver around 370 horsepower while maintaining relatively low emissions and the ability to run on carbon-neutral fuels. The proportions are perfect. Short overhangs, a long hood, a cockpit pushed back toward the rear axle. Everything about the design screams driver's car, but concepts are cheap. Automakers roll out flashy show cars all the time that never see production. They gather attention at auto shows, generate some press coverage, then quietly disappear into storage facilities. What made the iconic SP different was the language Mazda used. They didn't say, "This represents our vision for the future," or "This explores what's possible." They said they were considering production. That's a very different message. And according to recent reports from sources close to the development team, they're not kidding. The next-generation Rotary powertrain for a car like the iconic SP is reportedly almost technically complete. That means the engineering work is largely done. The engine exists. The hybrid system works. What's left is the business case, the manufacturing plan, and the final decision on whether to actually build it. The timing matters too. Mazda unveiled this concept at a moment when the automotive industry is drowning in nearly identical electric crossovers and SUVs. Everything is becoming efficient, quiet, and frankly, a bit boring. The iconic SP stands in stark contrast to all of that. It's emotional, it's different. It promises engagement in an era when most new cars prioritize convenience over connection. Whether Mazda can actually bring it to production is still uncertain. But the fact that they're this far along suggests they're serious about making it happen. Engineering the new generation. So what exactly is Mazda doing differently this time? How do you take an engine design that failed spectacularly on emissions and efficiency and make it work in 2025? The answer lies in fundamentally rethinking how the Rotary engine is used. First, they're not using the Rotary as a primary power source in the traditional sense anymore. The hybrid setup means the Rotary can run at its optimal efficiency range, generating electricity rather than directly driving the wheels through a transmission. That alone solves a huge chunk of the old fuel consumption problems. When a rotary engine is allowed to spin at a constant, efficient speed rather than constantly accelerating and decelerating with the car, it becomes much more manageable. Second, they're engineering for carbon-neutral fuels from the ground up. This is absolutely critical to understanding Mazda's strategy. Even if the rotary burns fuel, if that fuel is synthesized from atmospheric carbon or derived from renewable sources like microalgae or agricultural waste, the net emissions picture changes dramatically. Mazda is betting that carbon-neutral fuels will become more available and affordable, and that regulators will eventually account for life cycle emissions rather than just tailpipe emissions. That's a gamble, but it's not insane. Porsche is betting on synthetic fuels too. Several fuel companies are scaling up production. If the infrastructure develops, internal combustion engines running on carbon-neutral fuels could theoretically compete with EVs on environmental impact. Third, emissions control technology has come light years since 2012. Modern catalytic converters, particulate filters, and combustion management systems are far more sophisticated. Electronic controls can optimize every aspect of combustion in real time. Mazda claims they can meet Euro 7 and upcoming US emission standards with the new rotary designs, something that would have been nearly impossible a decade ago. The dual-rotor setup in the iconic SP concept is also interesting from an engineering perspective. Two rotors provide more displacement and power while maintaining the compact size and smooth operation rotaries are known for. Each rotor is small, but together they deliver serious output. Paired with an electric motor, the system can deliver instant torque from the electric side and high revving power from the rotary side. It's a combination that, on paper at least, plays to the strengths of both technologies. The development team has also been working on improving the apex seal design, one of the rotary's historical weak points. Apex seals are the components that maintain compression in the rotary's combustion chambers, and they've always been prone to wear. They're thin metal strips that ride against the chamber walls at high speeds and extreme temperatures. In older rotaries, they wore out relatively quickly, leading to loss of compression and engine rebuilds. Better materials, advanced coatings, and improved cooling could extend engine life significantly, addressing one of the biggest reliability criticisms that plagued earlier rotaries. If Mazda has actually solved the apex seal problem, that removes a major barrier to rotary viability. Carbon-neutral ambitions and the Vision X Coupe. Mazda didn't stop with the iconic SP. In 2025, they showed another concept called the Vision X Coupe, and this one pushed the carbon-neutral angle even harder. The concept reportedly features a rotary hybrid powertrain specifically designed to run on fuels derived from microalgae, a renewable source that captures carbon dioxide as it grows. The messaging here is crystal clear. Mazda wants to position the rotary not as a dirty gas-guzzling relic, but as part of a sustainable future. It's a bold rebranding effort. Whether you buy into it probably depends on how you feel about synthetic fuels and alternative pathways to decarbonization. The mainstream automotive industry is betting almost everything on battery electric vehicles. That's the dominant trajectory, and there's no question EVs will be the primary solution for most people. But Mazda is arguing there's room for multiple solutions, especially in niche applications where driving emotion and character matter, where the journey is part of the point, not just getting from A to B efficiently. The Vision X Coupe also signals that Mazda isn't planning to make just one rotary vehicle. If they're developing multiple concepts with rotary powertrains, they're clearly exploring how far they can take this technology. That could mean a sports car, yes, but maybe also other performance-oriented models down the line. Perhaps a lightweight roadster, maybe even a rotary hybrid performance version of a mainstream model. The fact that they're willing to show multiple rotary concepts in quick succession suggests internal confidence that the technology is viable. You don't keep developing concepts unless the underlying engineering works, and you believe there's a business case to be made. The business reality. A massive gamble. Let's be completely honest here. This is a massive gamble, and Mazda knows it. Developing a new engine architecture from scratch is phenomenally expensive. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in development costs, tooling, testing, certification. Developing one that only works in niche, low-volume products makes the math even harder. Mazda isn't Toyota or Volkswagen. They don't have infinite resources or massive profit margins to absorb experiments that don't pan out. Every dollar spent on rotary development is a dollar not spent on electric vehicle platforms, new conventional engines, expanding their hybrid lineup, or developing the SUVs and crossovers that actually pay the bills and keep the company profitable. Then there's the market question. Who exactly is going to buy a rotary-powered sports car in 2026 or 2027? Enthusiasts will line up, absolutely. There's a passionate community of rotary fans who've been waiting for this moment for over a decade. But enthusiasts are a small group. The broader market has moved decisively toward SUVs, crossovers, and increasingly electric vehicles. A two-seat sports car, no matter how cool or technically interesting, is a tough sell in that environment. Mazda's executives have acknowledged this challenge in interviews. They've admitted that justifying the investment is difficult. The business case isn't obvious. A limited production sports car probably won't make money on its own. But they've also said something interesting. Some things are worth doing even if they don't make immediate financial sense. The rotary engine is part of Mazda's identity. It's part of what makes them different in an industry where most manufacturers are becoming increasingly similar. In a world where cars are becoming appliances, where the driving experience is increasingly secondary to connectivity and convenience, maybe that differentiation has real value. Maybe there's something to be said for being the company that still cares about emotion and engagement. There's also significant risk around carbon-neutral fuels. If synthetic fuels don't materialize at scale, or if they remain prohibitively expensive, the rotary's environmental argument collapses. Mazda would be left with a niche engine that's hard to justify under tightening emissions regulations. The whole strategy depends on assumptions about future fuel availability that may or may not pan out. And even if carbon-neutral fuels become available, will consumers actually want them? Or will the convenience and low operating costs of EVs prove too compelling? These are genuine uncertainties that Mazda is betting against. What this means beyond Mazda. Mazda's rotary revival isn't just one company's pet project. It's a signal that matters for the entire industry. It demonstrates that old technologies can be reimagined, that there's potentially more than one path forward, and that emotional connection still has a place in the automotive world. Most automakers have accepted electrification as inevitable and are racing to build EVs as fast as possible. That makes sense. The regulations are pushing that direction. The technology is mature enough. The market is growing. But Mazda is saying something different. Yes, we'll do electrification too. We have hybrid models. We're developing EVs. But we're also going to explore other options. We're going to try to keep internal combustion alive in a form that can coexist with stricter environmental standards. Whether they succeed or fail, it's a fascinating experiment, and you can bet other manufacturers are watching closely. If Mazda can make a business case for a niche, emotionally engaging product in the age of electrification, others might follow. We've already seen brands like Porsche investing heavily in synthetic fuels for similar reasons. Ferrari has expressed interest. Even Lamborghini has talked about keeping the internal combustion engine alive through carbon-neutral fuels. There's a growing recognition in parts of the industry that not everyone wants to drive a silent, efficient appliance. Some people want engagement, character, a connection to the machine. The rotary engine, with its unique sound, incredible smoothness, and high revving nature, offers that in a way few other engines can. It's not just about getting somewhere, it's about the experience of driving itself. The rotary's return also raises interesting questions about what we value in cars. Is efficiency the only metric that matters? Is reducing emissions to zero the only goal worth pursuing? Or is there value in preserving diversity, in maintaining different approaches and philosophies? These aren't just technical questions, they're cultural ones. Mazda still hasn't committed to production. The iconic SP and Vision X Coupe remain concepts. The final decision on whether to build a rotary sports car hasn't been made public, but the fact that the engineering is reportedly almost complete suggests they're close to that decision point. The next year or two will tell us whether this gamble pays off or whether the rotary stays in the concept car graveyard where so many promising ideas end up. Either way, The fact that Mazda is even trying matters. They're betting that passion, heritage, and clever engineering can carve out a space in a rapidly changing industry. They're betting that some people still care about driving for its own sake. That's a bet worth watching. Because if they succeed, they won't just have revived an engine. They'll have proven that there's still room for character in an increasingly homogenized automotive landscape.